Good evening, welcome to ITV News Meridian.
Tonight's headlines in the south. Ferry on fire. 50 passengers are led off an Isle of Wight boat halfway across the Solent.
Within literally a couple of seconds, the flames were pretty much reaching the top of the roof of the bridge. There's quite heavy black smoke. It starts billowing straight up.
Totally confused, the parents baffled by the new style secondary school league tables. Are they really fair?
The 45th President of the United States, ahead of Donald Trump's inauguration, why there's protests closer to home.
And the daily commute, a short walk from the kitchen to the office, why working from home could benefit more workers this year. Good evening to you. A plume of black smoke could be seen over the Solent today when a passenger ferry carrying 52 passengers caught fire.
13 crew were on board the Whitelink ferry sailing from Portsmouth to Fishbourne. No one was badly injured and the crew managed to put out the fire, which started on the bridge. Rachel Hepworth has our report.
So I'm minding my own business, stood on the back deck, enjoying the view, and chap next to me just says, it's a bit strange, the ferry seems to be on fire.
The passengers may have stayed calm, but these pictures show the dramatic moment that fire broke out on the St Faith as it crossed one of the world's busiest shipping lanes. Chris Ison was one of 52 passengers on board. Sure
enough, there's a nest of flames just by the bridge on the port side. Within literally a couple of seconds, it just got much bigger. There's quite heavy black smoke. It starts billowing straight up.
Although the blaze was quickly put out, that plume of smoke was visible for miles around. The emergency services scrambled to Fishbourne as the captain rushed to get the ferry to safety.
He actually bumped the pier a couple of times as he, not rammed us, but he wanted us to be tied up at PDQ.
There was some minor smoke inhalation. Those were dealt with via our colleagues in the ambulance, but it could have been a serious incident. Thankfully, because of the swift actions of the crews, we managed to avoid that.
The car ferry had been en route from Portsmouth to Fishbourne when fire broke out at about 9:30 in an air conditioning unit on the portside bridge. An investigation has been launched into how it started, with the St Faith taken out of service until the extent of the damage is assessed. It meant disruption to services later in the day, but Whitelink says services are now back to normal.
Obviously, we'd like to apologise to those passengers on that sailing for this unusual event. The crew are well prepared and exercised for these kind of events, and they put those skills to test today and dealt with the situation well and calmly.
Many of those on board praised the staff for their quick response, without which the situation could have been catastrophic.
It was a big fire that took hold very quickly and they put it out quickly. Job done.
Rachel Hepworth, ITV News.
More news. Surrey County Council wants to raise council tax by 15%, blaming government cuts and the growing crisis in social care. A 15% increase by the Conservative-run authority could add nearly £200 to the average Band D bill. The leader of Surrey County Council, David Hodge, said the government had cut its annual grant by £170 million since 2010. A referendum will be held on the planned rise and the government are yet to comment, but opposition councillors say it would hit the elderly and those on fixed incomes the hardest.
15% is a very high increase in council tax, and it will be the highest in the country and 9 times the rate of inflation, and I think it's totally unreasonable. I'm totally opposed to it. Obviously, in addition to that, there would be a significant cut in services for Surrey residents, and also that's equally unacceptable. The Conservative administration here need to lobby central government to find and then set a realistic and reasonable council tax.
A Conservative councillor has been selected as leader of the Isle of Wight Council. Dave Stewart replaces Jonathan Bacon of the Island Independents, who resigned on Monday, saying government austerity measures made his position intolerable.
Police want to speak to this man in connection with 2 thefts in Horsham. A £350 golf club was stolen from Horsham Golf Club on Sunday. Police think the same man's responsible for stealing a sat-nav and cycle pedals from another shop.
A new style of secondary school league tables were published today. The government says it's a better and fairer way to judge schools, looking at the amount of progress students make rather than how many pupils get good grades.
Well, only 13 of the 282 failing schools across the country are in our region, including 4 schools in Basingstoke, 3 in Southampton, 2 on the Isle of Wight.
But critics say the new judgments are overly complex and difficult to understand and leaves lots of parents without a clue about what's going on. Our social affairs correspondent Christine Alsford reports.
There's plenty to sing about at St Edmund's Catholic Secondary in Portsmouth. Right in the heart of the inner city, they've gone from failing to outstanding within 5 years. And under new measures to judge GCSE performance, they're now ranked in the top 5% of schools in the country.
We haven't changed. We're still in the same school with the same children, with the same teachers, but we focused on different things. We altered our curriculum, we opened up the option choices, and we focused on key family values.
The main new measure to judge schools is called Progress 8. It compares how children improve in different schools and looks at results across 8 subjects. English and maths have extra weighting, but few parents have any idea what it's all about or how it works.
Do you know what Progress 8 is?
No.
No.
No, I'm afraid not. I don't.
No.
I never heard of it.
Some are welcoming the new measure as a fairer way to judge performance and say it should mean schools no longer focus on just ensuring pupils tick the 5 A-star to C grade box.
This will judge schools very differently. There will be some schools that did very, very well under the old measure because they had very affluent intakes that will now struggle. And I think that's a good thing, that a greater challenge is made to those schools.
Greater challenge is also ahead for more than a dozen schools in the Meridian region who now fall below expected standards under the new rules. They include 4 of Basingstoke's 9 secondaries, 2 on the Isle of Wight and 3 schools in Southampton. One that hasn't fared well says the measures don't paint a full picture.
Performance tables don't tell the whole story. Of course, it doesn't look good, and we were naturally very disappointed when that's published, but that's only one measure. And we'll always say to people, come and have a look at what we do. We won't hide, we'll show our school off warts and all. We're very proud of what we do.
Back in Portsmouth, many pupils are very happy about the way things are being shaken up.
What do you think about the fact that you're going to a school now that's in the top 5% of the country?
I'm really happy about that, and I think that maybe it'll give me, a head start in life.
We're from an inner city school, and people tend to see that as we're not going to be as smart as people that live in more rural areas, so I'm guessing progress is really key as well.
But the view is that all of the facts and figures should be used for holding schools to account rather than their individual pupils.
Christine joins us now. Big changes then, Christine.
They're a big change, but the question is, are they the right changes to hold our schools to account? And how useful are they if actually many people are actually struggling to understand what the figures mean? The government is certainly trying to help. If you go on to the Department for Education website and put a school's name in, the answer about whether it's a good school or not is now colour-coded. So green schools are good, amber schools are average, and those that are really struggling are red.
And presumably it will bed down after a time.
Well, you hope so, don't you? But one of the interesting things that's emerged today is I've been speaking to some sixth form colleges, and they say even though we've now ditched 5 A to Cs, including English and maths, as a measure for school performance, they're still going to be using it to decide whether or not to offer places to people at sixth form. So we haven't quite seen the end of the old measures yet.
Christine, thank you very much, as ever. And there are more details on how the new school tables work and how your school has performed on our website, itv.com/Meridian. The news, drivers eating cereal and having a shave are among 151 to be stopped by police forces in the south last week. Distracted drivers were caught on major roads like the M3, the M27 and the A34 in a joint operation between Hampshire Police and Thames Valley Police. 137 drivers were caught for using their mobile phones. Others were stopped for reading books or eating. A lorry driver was caught shaving on the M4.
Hampshire County Council is to consider if a single all-through school educating 4 to 16-year-olds should be set up at 3 schools in Aldershot, including the Connaught School. The plans are being discussed.
45 firefighters have battled a blaze at a workshop in Dorset. It happened at the property in Winterbourne Abbas this morning. Electricity supply to the village was cut off for a time for safety reasons.
10,000 people have signed a petition to save the miniature railway track in Poole Park. Train carriages were removed from the park yesterday following the end of the owner's tenancy agreement. Poole Council says a tender process will soon begin. The Poole Park Railway opened in 1949.
Well, you're watching ITV News here in the Meridian region. Thank you very much indeed for choosing us. We appreciate it. Coming up, an inauguration like no other. As Donald Trump prepares to move into the White House, we'll find out what to expect in Washington and here.
Plus images from a war zone, one photographer's remarkable story from the front line in Iraq.
And as always, for more on all of our stories, do head to itv.com/Meridian. Any views or news, why not give us a call on 0808 1010 095. That's 0808 1010 095. We always love to hear from you. Or you can get in touch via Facebook, or if you prefer, why not send us a tweet at ITV Meridian.
Campaigners have been protesting in Brighton this afternoon against the proposed sale of 2 historic downland sites 4 miles from its borders.
Yes, the land at Plumpton Hill and Poynings is among the 12,500 acres retained for the city through one of its founding fathers, Sir Herbert Carden, more than 100 years ago.
Well, he hoped to preserve and protect the Sussex Downs for the benefit of its residents. But now the city wants to sell off some of that land in the hope of raising more than £1 million to help restore nearby Stanmer Park.
Well, the council's meeting tonight at Hove Town Hall to discuss what would be the biggest sale of its downland in more than 3 decades. Earlier, Andy Dickinson sent us this report.
Well, as you can see by these protests behind me, these plans are mired in controversy as they have been for the months leading up to tonight's crunch decision. Brenda Pollock from Friends of the Earth, why are these 2 plots of land so important?
Well, they're part of the South Downs National Park and they are in public ownership, and public ownership gives a lot of guarantees to what happens to that land, and basically they were bequeathed to the people of Brighton for their enjoyment. Okay, it's farmland now, but it didn't used to be, and the way that it is managed cannot be controlled in future once it's sold.
But as you say, they are currently used as farmland. What's wrong with selling them? They'll still be protected, won't they?
Well, we know that they won't necessarily be protected. Nothing can actually guarantee that of the way the land is managed. The South Downs National Park Authority can only stop built development, and only in certain circumstances. There's no 100% guarantees, and the council can't give that once it's gone out of public ownership.
And yet Stanmer Park is on Historic England's at-risk register. It needs investment, doesn't it?
Stanmer Park does need some investment. The problem is that the money from these sales isn't all going to Stanmer Park. Some of it is going into general council coffers, and the issue is that the councillors need to listen to the people. You can see there's a lot of anger that there was no public consultation. There's a lot of anger. People know the council needs to raise money, but not with precious downland like this. They need to be looking at other assets. These are irreplaceable, basically.
Thanks, Brenda. Well, no one from the council was prepared to talk to us before tonight's meeting. In a statement, they said this project does not put downland around the city at risk. These sites represent less than 1% of the total estate and are protected irrespective of ownership. Consideration of environment and social value is very much part of the council's vision. Sales of the 2 sites will raise £360,000, half of which will be invested in Stanmer Park. The other half will go towards the council's budget strategy. Well, a decision is expected tonight. We think it could go either way, and it could be a late one.
We shall see. Andy Dickinson there. Well, tomorrow Donald J. Trump will assume the office of President of the United States of America, arguably the world's most powerful man.
Well, he's a celebrity businessman with no political experience who defied expectations to be elected. It's an election that's divided America, and ITV's Tonight programme has been hearing both sides. Here's Kevin Ashford.
We've got to take our country back.
He's a political maverick about to take the reins of the world's most powerful country. A country that is deeply divided in its views of the man who will be America's 45th president. One voter who found Trump compelling is Stan Morse from Iowa, who says he was looking for a new type of leader.
This country was set up for a citizen government, and that citizen government has gone by the wayside, and it's time to get it back again. Some of the criticisms that we hear is that he's never been in politics before, and I believe that that is 100% a positive.
To many American liberals, however, Trump's rise to power is profoundly worrying.
I feel he's a danger. He's not even the president yet, and he's reaching out to other world leaders, taunting them on social media, skipping security briefings. This is not presidential material.
To many political observers in Washington, Trump is an enigma.
Is he a New York businessman with thoughtful socialite elite friends and doesn't really have a political ideology? Or is he a scary narcissistic demagogue who will empower the most dangerous radical notions in this country? Who knows?
Much of Trump's fame is down to his appearances on reality television. For America and the rest of the world, President Trump is now the new reality. Kevin Ashford, ITV News.
Well, we're joined by Robert Moore, ITV's Washington correspondent. Robert, an extraordinary day lies ahead. Has America ever seen an inauguration quite like this?
No, I mean, Fred, look, we really are bracing tomorrow for a day of political drama and of theatre. You know, we know it's a great ritual of American democracy to see the transfer of power from one president to another. But look, that doesn't really tell the story. I mean, we have here a remarkable amount of sort of acrimony and recriminations behind the scenes. We've got kind of 50 members of Congress boycotting it. We've got the president-elect tweeting out sort of randomly. We've got a president-elect coming in with one of the lowest approval ratings ever. And we've got, of course, social media on kind of fire and angry and full of threats. So really, we've got on display, I think, here tomorrow, very much what we've called in the past the disunited States of America. There's a real sense of deep division in this country as we await for this inauguration.
He is a hugely divisive figure. Nobody really knows what to expect from Donald Trump. What are the implications, do you think, of a Trump presidency for us, for Britain?
I think, you know, what I call him is the disruptor in chief. You know, America has supported, has kind of in many ways inspired some of the most important sort of international treaties and agreements and organizations in the world, whether we talk about NATO or the concept of free trade. All of that is now up in the air. Donald Trump has been, withering in his contempt, if you like, for some of the kind of the key aspects of kind of international diplomacy. So I think everybody needs to fasten their seatbelt. This is a man who will not do business as other presidents have done. He is a protectionist. He is an isolationist. He wants to put America first. That has really profound, if at this point, unknown consequences for Britain and the rest of the world.
I wish I was there with you. Robert Moore, thanks for talking to us.
And President Trump, America's Greatest Gamble, is on the Tonight programme this evening at 7:30.
Also coming up, our political programme, The Last Word, with an unexpected appearance from the next president. Surprised? Here's Phil Hornby to explain.
Yes, but top of our agenda tonight, the long-running dispute on Southern Rail. Why has it been allowed to drag on and on and on?
I swear to God, this could have been ended. It could have been ended with equitable outcomes on both sides.
We're not talking about a 24-hour walkout here. This has been going on for months and months. Is it acceptable for the Secretary of State for Transport to sit there and say, nothing to do with me?
Well, these are grown-ups. These are a grown-up trade union and grown-up management.
We'll also be talking about Theresa May's big Brexit speech where she called for unity. Not too much sign of that tonight.
Quite honestly, it's been so badly handled, hasn't it? Right from the very beginning.
It's the vision for where we're going to.
Well, we can't get it right till we start negotiating.
Phil, there is no destination.
And yes, Donald Trump will be joining us.
And I'm very proud to come over on my way
to the five-star Dorchester Hotel, London, to meet Prime Minister Farage.
But unbeknownst to him, it was the Dorchester in Southampton. All that and more on The Last Word after the late news.
Fascinating. Phil Hornby there. Some football news for you. Southampton defender Jose Font is reported to be close to signing for West Ham United. He hasn't played since asking for a transfer, and he wasn't included as Saints defeated Norwich in their FA Cup replay at St Mary's last night. Shane Long scored the decisive goal in added time at the end of the game. Saints will face Arsenal at home on Saturday week in the 4th round.
The French yachtsman Armel Leclerc has won the round-the-world Vendée Globe race. He reached the finish in France this afternoon, with Hampshire's Alex Thompson due to arrive late tonight. After 74 days at sea, the winner was welcomed home by thousands of well-wishers. In the last few days, Thompson's challenge has been hit by technical difficulties on his yacht.
Now, a photographer who captured striking images of an Iraqi war zone has told ITV News of her experiences there.
Yes, Claire Thomas spent time on the front line with Iraqi troops and also with civilians who had fled from IS. Here, in her own words, is her remarkable story.
I've spent a lot of time last year in refugee camps in Europe, and I met a lot of people who have been fleeing from ISIS and conflict in their countries, and so I wanted to go and better understand what the horror and the trauma that's driving people to Europe. Going to the front line was a totally new experience for me. I really didn't know what to expect at all. And the first thing you see is homes that are completely destroyed from airstrikes and just deserted villages. One man we met, he was returning to try and retrieve some of his belongings from his house. And he wanted to show us what had happened to his house. And his house, like many, had been occupied by ISIS militants. On my first day, actually, I met a family who had fled Mosul recently because their house was hit by a car bomb, an ISIS car bomb, and the shrapnel had hit the little girl. She had an 8-year-old girl, and her face was covered in wounds from the shrapnel, and she had a pretty major wound on her back. So these people were really desperate to share their story with us. They wanted us to take their picture, and because they wanted us to try and get the message out that they're not getting the help that they desperately need. When we were on the front line, I was surprised how calm I felt. And actually having my camera in my hands was a really good distraction, because I was concentrating so much on just having the right exposure and capturing compelling images. And I think that's something that I'm trying to do with the pictures, is give people an insight to what I've seen and what's going on there, and the reality that these guys are fighting our common enemy. I think it's just important that we keep an open mind and realise that we haven't got a clue what refugees are fleeing from. So I just hope that people try to understand. The stories that I've heard will always stay with me, but imagine the impact this has on the people who are telling me their stories.
Amazing pictures, photographer Claire Thomas there. Now, more of us are choosing to work from home, but not us. According to the latest figures, almost 700,000 people in the south now take the opportunity to take a short walk from the bedroom to the office. That's about 60% of the working population.
Well, this week is Work from Home Week. Our bosses are being encouraged to think about the benefits of offering staff a better work-life balance. What a good idea. Amy Lee has this report.
The morning commute. Sam switched the office for her home 9 years ago and says she's never looked back. But working alone, no water cooler gossip, and what if your computer breaks? Well, Sam doesn't see those as negatives.
I don't feel there's any disadvantages for me. However, I would say that home working probably isn't for everyone. You do have to be quite self-disciplined, self-motivated. But for me, the benefits that I get from home working far outweigh what you've just described. And at the end of the day, technology's changed so dramatically now. Everybody's just a click away, and most of my calls are now media calls as well, and video. So I'm interacting with people on a face-to-face basis all day, every day anyway, even though I am on my own.
If Sam wasn't at home, she'd be here at these BT offices, where boss Simon is based.
I mean, clearly it's not for everyone, and I think you wouldn't want to assume that you have to make people work from home if they don't want to, but it does suit a lot of people, whether it's just flexibility, some days a week, or we have some people who are based at home full time because that suits their personal circumstances. Particularly with younger people, I mean, my sons are both in their 20s. I think they would view the idea that you had to work in an office and couldn't work at home part of the time and work out of the office flexibly as bizarre, frankly, because they've grown up with technology that enables them to do that. So these days, I think there are very few businesses that don't embrace it in some way.
Well, while the numbers of people working from home are on the rise, 86% of us will still work in an office, perhaps a bit like this. 13.7% of us on average work from home. And those of us that are perhaps using the kitchen as an office tend to be older, working part-time, being self-employed, but earning more every hour.
When people work from home, they're actually more productive. There's loads of studies showing this, including a huge American piece of work by Stanford University. But loads of individual companies in Britain are recording up to 25% increases in productivity for people who work from home.
Jane works from home too, but this isn't her front room. She uses a virtual office. It gives her a formal mailing address and somewhere to hold meetings. She's keen to dispel the myth that working from home is just an easy option.
It can be the case, but it isn't usually the case. I think the key for me is that when I've talked to other home business owners, and obviously my own experience, that the majority of people are actually working very long hours and working extremely hard. And I think we still need to get beyond that culture of being present equals being productive.
Good morning, Sam. Clive here.
Hi, Clive. How are you today?
I'm very well. Yourself?
3 million of us will spend more than 2 hours every day this week commuting to work. Sam's cut that to just 2 minutes. And in the future, it's predicted more of us will do the same. That's if you can persuade your boss to let you. Amy Lee, ITV News.
Now look, it's cold, cold, cold. Sangeeta and I have got the company cold. We need warmth. Please, Helen Plint with that forecast. Here she is.
From blizzards to pool, driving through Europe. Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
Hello again, a very good evening to you. Well, the clouds have been making way for some glorious sunrises this week. This was the scene at Ashley Heath taken by Nick Lucas this morning. And tracking forwards, well, the settled conditions prevail for now, which of course means plenty of winter sunshine. In fact, we do have the lion's share across the UK here in the south at the moment. Those clear skies, beautiful, but equally, as you can see, quite a difference in temperatures. So not nestled under the cloud, well, they will suffer once again overnight tonight. That said, it's a quiet enough evening and beautiful views of the night sky as well. But the compensation, well, the vast swathe of blue, of course, indicating where the frost will be sharpest by first thing tomorrow morning. So crunchy and crisp underfoot and temperatures very much on the cold side once again. In fact, they could be a couple of degrees lower than those figures suggest, especially in the countryside. And starting off the day, just the chance of a little bit more in the way of cloud for those furthest north. Here we could just see 1 or 2 misty, foggy spells as well. But apart from that, very little change to today. So glorious winter sunshine by the afternoon. Highs of 5 or 6 degrees, still feeling a bit on the raw side. So a quick look at the times of high water for tomorrow. And in Portland, it'll be high tide just before 11:30 in the morning and just before midnight. Now, moving forward, well, as you may well know, it's been very cold over the continent of late, bringing, well, a lot of snow here. And throughout the next few days, we start to import even more of that cold air. So tracking towards the weekend, temperatures down a notch on where they are at the moment. This means by Saturday, highs of between 3 and 5 degrees. Although that said, a lot of brightness, some sunshine out there, but the odd wintry flurry possible as well. Bye for now.
Eurotunnel the Shuttle sponsors ITV Meridian weather.
In just a moment, we've got the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale, who's in Washington.
Sangeeta will be here for our late news, so do join her if you possibly can. For now, though, from the team here at ITV Meridian, thank you very much indeed for watching. Take care. Join Sangeeta later. Join us too tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.